Everyone, welcome back. So, our 2023-2024 season previews continue on today with the Philadelphia Flyers. And for those who do not know, and for those who haven't been a big fan of the channel for that long, I am a Philadelphia Flyers fan. They are my favorite team overall. They're my favorite team to watch. And my favorite thing to do is talk about the Philadelphia Flyers on this channel. So let's look at last season first before we get into this season, because last season, even though it wasn't really good, it's still something to keep in mind because it really set the steps, not the stone, set the steps for what is to come for the future. In 22-23, they went 31, 38, and 13 for 75 points. They went 26th in the NHL, and of course, they missed the playoffs. Now, honestly, it was a year that, even though they had that season, they were still fun to watch. And this is what I'm going to say a lot in this video. Even though, they had the bad season they did and they were, 26th in the NHL, which is, 7th worst in the league. Honestly, it really wasn't as bad of a year as I projected them to have. I was saying they'd be the worst in the league. But John Tortorella really proved me wrong, showing a lot of effort and a lot of good coaching. And it really made the Flyers play much better, and it made them at least play with some pride and some effort. And even though, they wouldn't win games and maybe they wouldn't be really good, it still really showed that, they were a team, and, they showed effort, and they made it fun to watch, and they were competitive. And I said that a lot in a lot of videos, but still, I really do think that they were, much more entertaining this past year than in previous years. Departures and arrivals. Despite that, this was a very eventful offseason for the Flyers. Departures, you had Kevin Hayes, Ivan Provorov, Tony DeAngelo, James Van Riemsdyk, Brendan Lemieux, and Justin Braun. Those are the notable guys that have left the roster. Kevin Hayes is obviously traded to St. Louis. That was going to be a big blockbuster deal, but then it didn't turn into one, so it's unfortunate, but it happens. I will miss Kevin Hayes, even though he had that contract and, he dealt with the stuff with his brother. I will really miss him overall. Ivan Provorov, and I've talked about on videos and on TikToks, and I've talked everywhere about how I'm going to miss Provorov, even though, I hated him. And this has something to do with the pride or anything, the pride flags or anything like that, or the jerseys. That has nothing to do with this. I didn't like him because he was always turning over the puck. He was always trying to go up on offense and score, and then he just ended up turning over the puck. Now, he was a great overtime hero. I have plenty of goals and plenty of memories of Ivan Provorov scoring overtime winners, but he just was not good defensively. And it's good we got him out of there. We got a first-round pick back in return for that, Oliver Bonk. I'll take that over Provorov. We also got rid of Tony DeAngelo. We bought him out. We were supposed to trade him, but then that then ended up going through. We lost James Van Riemsdyk to free agency. He's obviously heading off to Boston. Brendan Lemieux was a deadline player, so nothing big there. And Justin Braun, I always liked Braun. I thought it was a solid defensive defenseman. He actually retired at first and then came out of retirement and signed in Europe. So, those are your departures, your arrivals. And honestly, if I even said this in a lot of videos talking over the Flyers the offseason, I said that you really shouldn't have expected anything heading into the offseason outside of acquiring draft picks and youth and getting rid of the bad contracts. And we really didn't get much of that this past year. We signed Garnet Hathaway, Mark Stahl, Victor Mete, Ryan Poehling, and Rhett Gardner, along with Cal Peterson there, too. I actually even almost forgot to put Cal Peterson on my list. But regardless, and Sean Walker, too. I keep forgetting the guys from the Provorov trade. I look at that. They're not bad players, really. And, honestly, they are players that, they'll probably stay on the team just for a year to fill up roster spots. Either that or they're going to get moved at the deadline. I could see Garnet Hathaway getting moved at the deadline. It's very possible. All of the other guys, I'm not sure about that unless Cal Peterson has a good year. But honestly, those guys really could just get moved at the deadline. But regardless, they fit the Flyers' role. They're physical. They play a physical type game, a gritty type game, which makes a lot of sense. So I don't really hate the guys we brought in. I wasn't expecting to really bring anybody in because knowing history of the Flyers in the past few years, we just have not brought in players. So it's really not a surprise to me we didn't bring any guys, regardless of Danny Briere now being the general manager. And I love Briere. Briere's made great moves. There isn't one move that I've been with Danny Briere so far. So I really like a lot of the moves he's made. Your lineup, this is via the Daily Faceoff, not what I created, by the way. So your first line here, and this is if everything is fully healthy. If everyone comes to training camp, yeah, everything's fully healthy and good. Joel Farabee, Morgan Frost, and Travis Konechny as your first line. Scott Lofton, Sean Couturier, and Owen Tippett as your second line. There are talks of Couturier. He's been cleared to play. He's going to play next season, which is great, but we'll see how good he is. I think, honestly, it makes sense to start him off on the second line. Is it crazy to put Morgan Frost above Couturier? No, because he hasn't played in like 2 seasons. So, really, I think you should start him off slow. Don't put him up on the first line right away, especially since we're not the best team in the world. So, I think it makes sense to put him on the second line. And then, of course, other guys there too, like Farabee. He hopefully should have another good season. Obviously, he was hurt for a lot of last year, so that played a role in why he wasn't the best. But hopefully, he'll play better this coming year. Frost had a good year. We still got to sign him, I believe. So he's still got to get signed to a contract. Travis Konechny had a great year as well. Lofton looked good. Owen Tippett looked great. One of my favorite Flyers that I watched. Honestly, maybe even on the back of this jersey or when I get another Flyers jersey, it's got to be Owen Tippett. I love Owen Tippett so much. I enjoyed watching him last year, and honestly, he probably is going to be the next jersey I get for a Flyer. Bottom 6 here now, you got Cam Atkinson, Noah Cates, and Wade Allison. Then the fourth line, you have Nicholas Deslauriers, Tyson Foerster, but I could see Ryan Poehling taking that fourth line spot, and Garnet Hathaway. So, we'll go more in depth with Foerster and Poehling in a minute. But regardless, that third line, Atkinson, of course, he be coming back from missing all of last season. Honestly, really start him off on the third line. You really can't move that contract. So, I mean, would you put him above Lofton and Farabee? Probably not, unless if he starts scoring really well out of the gate. But, we'll find out there. And, of course, there are those possibilities. They could trade Lon. They could trade, they could move him. So, possible. I honestly, I haven't even really looked into that too much. I haven't even really looked into all the players we could start moving. I've seen Konechny be on the block. Hart's going to be a big one because he expires next season. He's an RFA, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, Noah Cates, great third line center. Obviously had a really good defensive year last year. Underrated rookie season. Didn't get to talk about him in a video, but I really would have liked to. Because I thought he was good, and he actually got Norris votes, Selke votes for the best defensive forward. So really, that's pretty good there for a Flyers rookie on a team that was not good last year. And then Wade Allison there too, a solid forward. Fourth line is the fighting line. Honestly, whether or not Foerster's in that fourth line, there definitely is going to be some fighting. Deslauriers is going to get into fights. Hathaway is going to get into fights. And I said this. I said, well, we're not going to be good, so screw it. Re-sign Brendan Lemieux, go out and sign Zach McEwen, sign Hathaway, keep Deslauriers, make that your bottom 6, and let's just get him kicked out every single night. That was what I was thinking during this offseason. It'd be awesome, and it would sell tickets too, because people will come and watch them fight for sure. So, yeah, that'll be the fighting line and the grit line for sure. But I like Foerster there a lot. When we talked in our prospect pool overview a few weeks ago, we talked about how Foerster had a really good stint in the NHL, and I definitely think that could carry on into this season, and he could have a pretty solid rookie year. And he's being underrated by a lot of players as prospects for sure. Additional players, you got Rhett Gardner, Poehling, or Foerster, one of the two, but Poehling could move in there, be a solid fourth liner. Honestly, he could go anywhere, and then Tanner Laczynski there as well, and that's your forward core. Defense, you got Travis Sanheim and Rasmus Ristolainen. Mark Stahl and Cam York, Nick Seeler and Sean Walker, and then Victor Mete and Ronnie Attard. So that is your defense there. Probably one of the worst defensive cores in the league, if I'm being honest. I mean, Sanheim is all right. He gets overpaid, but he's all right. Risto's terrible. Nobody can argue with me about that. He has been awful. Stahl, I'm optimistic to see what he'll do. Cam York hopefully has another good developmental year. He's honestly, in a few years, York could be the only one left for what this blue line could become. So, yeah, we'll find out there, of course. Seeler, nice fighter. Walker, we'll see how he does, but, that's really your blue line. Not a strong blue line whatsoever. That'll be probably our weakest point for sure. However, we do got a nice goalie in that, so it is nice. Carter Hart and Cal Peterson. Then you got Felix Sandstrom there as a third string. And here's what I was thinking while I was making this video. You have so many goalies in the system there. You got Hart, you got Peterson, you got Sandstrom, you got Urson, you got, I believe, another goalie down there too in the AHL. I can't remember his name. And then you got Ivan Fedotov coming over. So, really, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if, before the season starts or right before the season starts or mid-season, we trade a goalie. It could really make sense. I'm not saying it's Hart. And I'm not saying they'll trade Hart just off the bat. But it is possible we could trade a goalie or we could just send him down to the ECHL. The most likely, though, is probably going to be Felix Sandstrom. Sandstrom did not have a good year last year whatsoever, so it really wouldn't surprise me if he's the one to go, but of course we'll find out there. That's just all speculation. And that's the biggest X factor, the goalies. Really, the goalies are going to make or break this team from being a solid, where we were last season, or we're just going to be dead last. Like, honestly, last year it was the effort. So, and this is what I said a lot too. I said John Tortorella and Carter Hart were the reason why we weren't last in the league. Honestly, if we trade away Hart, which is possible, I don't think we should do it, but it's possible. And I want to make a video separately on that. I'm going to make a video on that eventually when Hart rumors start spiking up again. But, that's something that I do want to talk about. But if we trade Hart, then our goalie situation gets way worse. And, it's the biggest thing. So, I don't know. Goalies are the biggest X factor and what could make this team a, 25 to 26th place team or a 32nd place team. So, we'll find out, of course. But, yeah, the forward core is actually not that bad. I mean, it's really not that terrible. It's young, it's solid, but there's a lot of physicality. It's not very good after the first 5 forwards, and such. And a lot of those guys too, Couturier, Atkinson, they're coming back from missing a lot of time. Couturier missing 2 full seasons. Of course, other guys there too are newer, so it's going to be interesting what they're going to do. But I would imagine Briare's going to have more trades cooking. We're definitely going to be looking at the 2024